I did go to Diana's coffin the day after I'd written it, and I read it to her in there, and I did sort of feel
Prince Harry may have just lost one of the last allies he thought he had. Diana's brother, Charles Spencer, is no longer staying silent and has taken a stance that sent shockwaves through the Sussex camp. After years of watching Meghan dominate the headlines, Charles intervened, raising new questions that the Sussexes are unable to answer. Has Charles Spencer finally reached his breaking point? And could this be the moment that changes everything for Harry and Meghan? Join us as we reveal how Diana's brother breaks silence on Meghan Markle, leaving Harry shocked. Charles Spencer, the silent gatekeeper. For a long time, Diana's childhood home, Althorp House, had been quiet, unlike the silence anywhere else in England. But even with the silence, her shadow had always lingered, and it still commanded the world's attention. But in early 2026, that silence was shattered by a furious outburst that originated from within the very walls of the house. The outburst came from none other than Charles Spencer. But this whole story wouldn't make much sense without understanding who Charles Spencer is and why he did what he did. And honestly, having stayed in the background for so long, many people seem to forget who this man actually is. Charles Spencer is the 62-year-old youngest brother to the late Diana, Princess of Wales. He's the 9th Earl Spencer, and he's the one who has been quietly guarding Diana's legacy since the moment they buried her. Those who watched the burial procession might remember him for the groundbreaking eulogy at Westminster Abbey in 1997. There, in front of literally 2 billion people, Charles stood up and basically challenged the royal family to their faces. There, Charles promised that the Spencer blood family would see to it that Diana's sons were raised with warmth and sensitivity, not with that cold royal rigidity. He promised to shield them from the torture that defined Diana's life up to her final moments. While the speech was emotional, it was also a promise Charles Spencer was determined to keep. And he has been keeping that promise ever since, very quietly, but also very deliberately. And he started from the burial itself. One would expect that as the crown princess, Diana would be buried in the royal family vault, or that at least the royals would decide where to bury her. But nothing could be farther from the truth. Diana was laid to rest at Althorp, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire. This is the same house where Diana grew up, where she rode horses, and where she became the person the world fell in love with. And it sits on land the Spencer family has owned for 500 years. To put it more concisely, it means Charles refused to let his sister out of his reach, even in death. Nonetheless, even with that much authority, he just stood by for years and watched everything happen. As Charles watched, something unsettling began to happen. Respect or desperation? It first started with the jewelry. Meghan Markle wearing Diana's aquamarine ring at the 2018 royal wedding reception. And honestly, at first it probably felt good. It felt like someone other than Charles was actively trying to keep his sister's memory alive. Meghan also wore the butterfly earrings, a Cartier tank watch, the gold bracelets. Each of these pieces belonged to Diana and were carefully used by Meghan at events where she was absolutely guaranteed to be photographed. No one is saying the intentions were not genuine. Perhaps they were, but then it became a recurrent theme. Somehow, every major appearance of Meghan has a Diana piece attached to it. It didn't take the public long to notice the strategy behind it. And then there was the Oprah interview in 2021. That was the subject of tabloid news for a long time. Some critics analyzed every detail of that interview. They pointed out the lighting, the soft setting, the intimate staging. They pointed out the theme, a woman being silenced by an institution that didn't care about her mental health, her cries for help, dismissed alone in a hostile system. Any royal fan would immediately notice the similarities, because that is almost exactly the architecture of Diana's 1995 Panorama interview, the one where Diana went directly to the public because the palace had shut every door on her. Watching the Oprah interview from Althorp, Charles Spencer reportedly did not see it as a tribute, and it's easy to see why. Then came the Netflix documentaries and the confessional camera moments. Taking advantage of their exit from royal duties, Meghan even managed to build the narrative of a couple forced to flee, hunted down by the same establishment that destroyed Diana. The implication is that she has made her situation look like what happened to Diana is happening again, just in a different generation. That may be compelling to others, but for Charles Spencer, who watched his sister's real trauma get exploited in real time by media people who didn't care about her, this was starting to look very familiar. Suddenly, it didn't feel as good as it did when she wore the earrings the first time. After they lost their HRH titles, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex built their global fame by leaning on the memory of Diana. It was their get-out-of-jail-free card, their source of legitimacy, and their most bankable asset. Then, in 2026, the Sussexes made a move that forced Charles to break his silence: the controversial documentary. After the Sussexes left London for Los Angeles, they needed a way to sustain themselves, so they delved into the media business, hoping to exploit their fame and make a fortune. Many brands, including Netflix, were eager to partner with them. After all, they were royals. They seemed to be doing well, at least for a while. Then, in early 2026, their media operation came under some serious pressure. Their Spotify deal had collapsed. The American Riviera Orchard lifestyle brand wasn't getting the traction they expected. They needed something massive, something that would justify the Netflix deal and remind the world why Harry and Meghan still mattered. And then someone came up with the idea that they should do a 2027 anniversary documentary about Diana, 30 years after she died in that Paris tunnel. It made sense, at least on paper. It's been 30 years of grief for those close to her. 30 years of unanswered questions. People have been seeking definitive answers, and an emotional, cinematic Diana documentary would have been absolutely enormous. Netflix reportedly loved it immediately and were ready to get to work. There's one angle that made it truly irresistible to the people pitching it. They wanted to draw a direct line between Diana's fight against the establishment and Meghan's fight against the same forces. They wanted to position Meghan as the modern continuation of Diana's story, the 21st century version of the woman who refused to be silenced. That was quite bold and ambitious, but it had one catastrophic problem. They needed Charles Spencer to make it work. They wanted Elthorpe itself as a backdrop. They wanted private family archives. They reportedly wanted access to Diana's personal handwritten diaries, home movies that have never been seen publicly. The real private Diana that nobody outside the Spencer family has ever had access to. Now, it goes without saying that without Charles, it would just be another documentary about history. So Netflix and the Sussex team went to Charles Spencer with this proposal, and they probably believed he would agree right off the bat. The documentary seemed like something that someone keeping his sister's memory alive would want. It looked like a massive cinematic tribute to his sister Diana. But what Charles actually saw when he read through that proposal was something very different. When he saw the role Meghan was set to play, he understood the architecture of the whole thing, and his response was 4 words: "Is this a joke?" When Charles Spencer calls something like that a joke, it carries weight. Few people have more authority over Diana's legacy than the man who has protected it for nearly 3 decades. Then suddenly, the people who built this documentary around Diana's legacy had no Diana to build it around. There's another reason why Charles refused. Some sources say Charles Spencer carries a specific guilt about his sister that has shaped everything he has done since 1997. They say he was the one who introduced Diana to the journalist behind the Panorama interview. The same interview that everyone now knows was obtained through forged documents and psychological manipulation. Diana was vulnerable. She was in pain, and someone turned that vulnerability into television. Charles watched it happen, and when the full truth about how that interview was obtained came out years later, it hit him hard. He had played a role, however unintentionally, in one of the most significant exploitations of his sister's pain during her lifetime. He has spent every year since making sure nothing like that happens again. So when he saw Meghan's proposed documentary, he didn't need to think twice. Charles Spencer has kept that material sealed, and by doing so, he has done something quietly extraordinary. He has protected Diana's mystery. But why is Meghan so desperate about the documentary? Netflix deal in the mud. Everyone knows about Meghan and Harry's $100 million Netflix deal and how it's now hanging by a thread. The latest show, With Love, Meghan, is not well welcomed, so as it stands, there's not a lot of love for With Love, Meghan. Only 24 hours after the show went live on Netflix, verdicts from reviewers and the public came thick and fast. So far, the only positive side to it is that it has received plenty of attention. If we work on the basis that all publicity is good publicity, then Netflix will be delighted with the reaction because, on the internet at least, this show is a hot topic. However, much of the coverage from news outlets is focused on criticism of the program from commentators or reviewers. And to be honest, the negative reviews themselves are out in force. The response from reviewers for the UK media was scathing. Even the London's newspaper, The Evening Standard, which gave it 4 stars, still ended up mocking it. The Times gave it only 2 stars, describing it as surreally dull. The Daily Telegraph also gave it 2 stars, and according to it, the show is an exercise in narcissism, filled with extravagant brunches, celebrity pals, and business plugs. Then there's the Guardian newspaper, which has long been in favor of abolishing the monarchy and has previously published pieces condemning the treatment of Meghan. This time, it had one of the most critical reviews. It gave the program 1 star and called it toe-curlingly unlovable TV. A different writer suggested it could be the final thing Meghan makes for Netflix, and Hello's TV and film editor outrightly said she was confused by who the program was aimed at. This is meant to be a light-hearted entertainment program. But at the end of the day, who would have thought that seemingly good lifestyle content could spark such an explosion of backlash? This isn't the first time Netflix content from the Duke and Duchess has been panned. The couple's debut docuseries, Harry and Meghan, in which they spoke about their struggles with royal life, remains the platform's most watched debut. However, their other programming, such as Heart of Invictus and Polo, haven't fared as well. They were met with a frosty critical response. But With Love, Meghan, originally billed as a fresh, approachable look into the couple's California lifestyle, has proven even less resonant. While the sentiment may be genuine, it failed to move the needle. For many viewers, With Love, Meghan is yet another reminder of the growing divide between Meghan's carefully crafted public image and what audiences are actually looking for in lifestyle content. Despite the Netflix budget and famous friends, the show has struggled to find its footing and its audience. According to Fox News, experts recently said the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's 5-year $100 million Netflix deal was due to expire in 2025. While Season 2 of With Love, Meghan has already been filmed and is scheduled to premiere this fall, the possibility of a 3rd season remains unknown. After the lukewarm reception to Meghan's Netflix series, the streaming giant has reportedly decided not to renew the deal, much to Meghan's chagrin. According to media experts, she desperately needs to get back on her feet or lose the only hope she has of remaining in the spotlight. Ian Pelham-Turner, a royal expert, explained that the loss of the Netflix deal will be a major blow for the couple. Taking all these together, it's easy to see why Meghan really wants that documentary. The dust isn't settling, and the question now is whether the Sussexes can pivot their way around the rejection, Harry and William. Now, here is where it gets even more interesting, because Charles Spencer did not make this decision alone. Sources close to the palace have been talking about a relationship that has been quietly developing for years, and that most people have been sleeping on completely. It's not a secret that William, like Charles, has been privately furious about the commercialization of his mother's image for years. But being the future king, Each of his actions carry heavy repercussions, so he can't act whimsically. He cannot publicly block his brother's media projects without it becoming a massive international headline story about palace censorship and family warfare. When the palace blocks something, it looks like the establishment protecting itself. But when Diana's own brother, the man who stood at her funeral and promised to protect her sons, publicly calls a project a joke, that's not institutional control. That's family honor. The bond between the two princes started to weaken when Harry got involved with Meghan, but it became worse when they decided to leave the royal family. In that shocking moment, William watched as Harry, who was once a beloved member of the royal family, decided to step back. He left the palace, left the country, and left his family. He moved to a different country and started a new chapter. It turns out that no family, not even the royal family, is immune to conflict. But the rift between Prince William and Harry has been one of the most public and painful divides in recent history. Once inseparable brothers, their relationship has fractured under the weight of personal grievances, media scrutiny, and differing visions for their futures. Now, with this documentary saga, things are bound to completely collapse between the brothers. William is completely against the idea, while Harry needs to get his media projects back together. William has long since stopped mentioning Harry. Many outlets say his anger towards him has turned to complete indifference. But according to some sources, Charles Spencer is still trying to keep the promise he made decades ago. So, in a discreet yet powerful move, Charles reportedly wrote to Prince William urging him to publicly address the deepening crisis between his brother, Prince Harry, and the royal family. Charles, a lifelong custodian of British tradition and royal dignity, made it clear the silence cannot continue. The crown must reclaim its strength. Harry has become a symbol of weakness in the eyes of the world. He observed that the media no longer sees Harry as the man he was raised to be, a soldier, a prince, a statesman. He is now portrayed as a shadow of himself, emotionally fragile, reactive, and utterly consumed by the narrative of his wife, Meghan. Charles reportedly expressed concern that Harry's personal choices have allowed the press and public to redefine him, not as a royal, but as an outsider, led rather than leading. And in the eyes of many royalists and global media outlets, this perception has become permanent. Don't be mistaken, Charles Spencer is not siding with Prince Harry. According to insiders, his plea to William is not about emotional reconciliation. It's about strategy, stability, and protecting the global image of the British monarchy. Harry may have eroded trust, but silence from the future king risks making things even worse. The source shared that Charles reportedly warned that by ignoring Harry completely, the royal family is allowing Meghan and Harry to dominate the global narrative, unchecked. And at the same time, traditional royal values are being mocked and dismantled in real time. Charles may have stepped in, but that still leaves the question of whose side the masses are on. Whose side are people on? It is at this point that fans and critics speak out, lending their voice even when they weren't asked to. Either way, there is now a global debate between two brothers, one that has unequally divided public opinion across social media, television commentary, and international news coverage. Even when William and Harry were still a force together, their mother had already become one of the most influential figures the modern monarchy had ever seen. Despite the immense personal challenges she faced, Diana absolutely refused to let adversity define her. If anything, the struggles only strengthened her resolve to make a meaningful impact on the world. She understood pain and isolation, and rather than retreating into her own suffering, she chose to extend her hand to those who needed it most. It was this relentless compassion that made her truly extraordinary. One of the causes closest to Diana's heart was the fight against HIV/AIDS. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, when misinformation and fear about the disease were rampant, many avoided any association with those diagnosed. Patients were stigmatized, abandoned, and treated as outcasts. but Diana, with her characteristic defiance of. She continued to visit hospitals, orphanages, and care facilities, comforting patients and using her influence to demand better health care and more compassionate treatment. She worked tirelessly with organizations like the National AIDS Trust and the London Lighthouse, bringing global awareness to an issue that many preferred to ignore. She often took William and Harry with her on visits to homeless shelters, ensuring that they understood the realities of life beyond the palace gates. She wanted them to see the human cost of neglect and poverty and to grow into men who would use their privilege to help others. Because of this legacy, Diana remains more than a historical royal figure. This is why discussions about her legacy continue to carry such emotional weight. So when documentaries, books, or interviews connected to Diana's life appear, the public response will become sharply polarized. The supporters are greatly divided. On one side of the divide, there are people who support Prince William. According to them, saying no to the Netflix documentary is a matter of respect and honor. They argue that Diana's story has already been told many times, and that turning her memory into another entertainment product will risk trivializing the emotional impact of the death of Diana, Princess of Wales. For the majority of people on this side, the anniversary of her death should not be framed as a marketing opportunity, but a moment for reflection within the family. These voices solidly echo William's long-standing role in preserving his mother's humanitarian legacy. Then there's the other side where supporters of Harry pile up. They believe Prince Harry has every right to tell his own story about their mother. Their argument is that Diana's influence shaped both brothers equally, and that Harry's perspective, particularly his reflections on grief and media intrusion, offers a valuable dimension to the historical record. However, the reality is likely more complex. Media projects developed by the Sussexes typically involve teams of producers, historians, writers, and executives, usually far more people than the public imagines. Decisions about documentaries or streaming content are rarely shaped by a single individual. Still, in the world of celebrity and royalty, perception can matter as much as fact. Every announcement, rumor, or leaked detail quickly becomes another chapter in a broader narrative about family conflict and competing visions for the future. As the story continues, what will become of Harry? What's next? For Prince Harry, the feud Harry and Meghan are entangled in is not just with William, but with the entire Windsor castle. Their exit from royal duty was closely followed by Harry's protocol-shattering memoir titled Spare. His memoir quickly became the fastest-selling non-fiction book of all time after it was released in January 2023. In that book, Harry left no stone unturned as he poured in all the family drama and dynamics within the monarchy. Among the many revelations that were nothing short of eyebrow-raising, the memoir details Harry's contentious relationships with his father and brother, Prince William, and the problems caused by his marriage to Markle that caused him to shut the door on royal life altogether. They have only returned to the UK a few times since, and now, according to a new report, the British royal family is extremely reluctant to reconcile with Meghan Markle, despite being open to peace talks with Prince Harry. Just weeks after the Duke of Sussex sent his aides to London to meet with King Charles's communications secretary, it emerged that the core of the royal rift hasn't changed in the slightest. According to insiders, there's no trust, and that singular factor remains at the heart of the family feud that has lasted for years. And of course, everyone believes that Meghan, the suit's alum, is to blame. On her 44th birthday, a source revealed in clear terms that the royal family just don't trust her. The same source alleged that while the monarch is open to a resolution with the prince, the same cannot be said for their thoughts on Meghan. The report also says that the future of the family's dynamics may see Harry venture to and from the UK alone, meaning that his wife and their two children, Archie and Lilibet, will not join him. Apparently, the royal family's greatest fear is having any conversation they have with Markle become material for the next money-making venture she throws herself into. In the years since Megxit, King Charles has kept a rather stoic silence on top of a 5,459-mile distance from his estranged youngest son and his family. It should be noted that in recent weeks, Harry has made it known that he's serious about reconciling with his family members by offering to share his diary dates with the royal family to ensure total transparency. And beyond that, the offer has reportedly been extended to his brother and sister-in-law, the Prince and Princess of Wales, who have not spoken to the Sussexes in years. As for Meghan Markle, who has frequently been named as the cause of everything, her own story is even more complex. Since marrying Harry in 2018, Meghan has been both praised and criticized for her role in the couple's new ventures. A few supporters view her as a partner helping to build a modern media platform focused on storytelling and advocacy. Critics, particularly in parts of the British press, often portray her as an outsider influencing royal narratives from outside the institution. Most people claim that she is most likely the one influencing her husband into taking those decisions. However, Meghan is reportedly in talks with Netflix for a renewal of their agreement. As of now, her future is indecisive. Presently, Harry and Meghan are still estranged from the royal family, and there doesn't appear to me any clear path to reconciliation. Is it really all right to use Diana's legacy in their documentary? And was Charles Spencer right to reject the proposal? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen